Hello and welcome to Haunted Montreal's Spooky Story Sessions. I'm your host, Holly Rhiannon, and today I'm going to tell you all about the Vétérans Parc. With over 450 documented ghost stories, Montreal is easily the most haunted city in Canada, if not all of North America. Haunted Montreal is dedicated to researching these paranormal tales, and here on our channel we bring you new videos in both French and English every second Saturday. Today, we examine the Vétérans Parc, a haunted location at the foot of Jacques Cartier Bridge on the Montreal span. But before we get into today's story, please remember to like, subscribe, and hit the bell button so you get notified every time we have a new story to share. And hey, if you're already subscribed, thank you so much, and welcome back. I'm happy to see you again. Now, without further ado, let's get spooky. At the Montreal entrance span to the Jacques Cartier Bridge lies a relatively nondescript green space called the Vétérans Parc. Crisscrossed with busy and winding highway ramps, the park also serves local residents with sporting facilities and a chalet. While it's not Montreal's most pleasant park, many local residents appreciate it nonetheless in an urban area with minimal nature. Some of the features in the park include a basketball court, a rink for rollerblading and winter skating, playgrounds for children and toddlers, a wading pool, and a picnic area. According to the City of Montreal, Vétérans Parc is a park for relaxing, taking in the natural scenery, and enjoying outdoor activities. However, according to some local residents, the Vétérans Parc is anything but relaxing due to incessant paranormal activity and ghost sightings in the green space. One resident who moved to the South Centre area a few months ago had some disturbing experiences in the park. She told Haunted Montreal, "My cats have been traumatized, and I have heard unreal things. I'm not from this part of town, but have lived here since June, and many things that I have heard or felt are not normal to me." Another local who lives across Papineau Street from the Vétérans Parc explained, "Sometimes at night, all of the local dogs start howling or whining at the same time. When I look out my window, I often see a ghost wandering through the park. This I swear upon. He is definitely a male ghost in older clothing and seems to wander aimlessly as though he is sad or lost." To make matters worse, a hangman's noose dangles around his neck. He usually disappears after 10 or 20 seconds, then the dogs gradually calm down. Over the years, I've heard rumors that the park was built on an old British military cemetery. That is why it's called Vétérans Parc. In 1814, the Papineau Military Cemetery was opened for the burials of British soldiers. The following year, on the northern section of the same plot, St. Mary's burial ground was established for non-military Protestants. During the decades where the two cemeteries operated, over 1,000 soldiers and their families were interred there. Burials included British soldiers who fought in campaigns in Canada and around the world dating back to the 18th century. These military interventions include the Fenian raids, the Napoleonic Wars, and the War of 1812. The most famous soldier to be interred was Sir Benjamin d'Urban, commander of the British forces in North America. He died in Montreal in 1849 after collapsing into his bed at the hotel where he was headquartered to quell local unrest. This general is mostly remembered for his frontier policy as governor in the Cape Colony, now South Africa. When he was stationed there, he used military force to brutalize local populations who opposed colonialism. Despite these crimes against humanity, the South African city of Durban was named in his honor. On the other side of the Atlantic Ocean, in Montreal's Papineau Military Cemetery, a tall and imposing obelisk was erected over his grave. One of the strangest interments at St. Mary's burial ground was that of Patriot Charles Hindelang. Born in Paris, Hindelang was a Calvinist who took part in the French Revolution of 1830, in which he became an officer. He came to the Americas to do commerce, but was recruited by rebel Ludger Duvernay in the United States to join the Lower Canada Rebellion of 1838 against British rule. Hindelang fought at the Battle of Odelltown with the Patriot ranks, which was the last battle of the conflict. The Patriots were defeated, and Hindelang was arrested as he attempted to flee back to the United States. British authorities sentenced him to death at the gallows. On February 15, 1839, Hindelang was hanged at the Pied-du-Courant prison in Montreal along with his compatriots. His last words were, "My last goodbye is the old cry of France. Long live freedom! Vive la liberté!" While all of the other executed patriots were buried in St. Antoine Catholic Cemetery, Hindelang ended up in St. Mary's burial ground because of his Protestant background. Ironically, he was buried close to the Papineau Military Cemetery, not very far from the British soldiers who he had fought against. In 1869, the burial ground stopped receiving corpses because the British military departed from the newly founded Dominion of Canada. The land was expropriated in 1876 to erect a hospital for people suffering from contagious diseases. This improvised facility was constructed over the cemeteries. In the early 20th century, proposals were put forth to convert the old burial grounds into a park. Tombstones were deteriorating as vandals toppled and desecrated them. A Montreal newspaper reported in June 1912 that the boneyard had become the resort of idle men and boys, stray dogs, and cattle. It became necessary to station police officers on the burial grounds around the clock to protect them from further desecration. Furthermore, sometimes bodies were unearthed accidentally. According to historian and journalist Robert N. Wilkins, an acquaintance recently told me that when he was a child growing up in a tenement at the foot of the Jacques Cartier Bridge, he witnessed the accidental unearthing by road workers of a coffin just south of Mallow Street. The astonished laborers, having just completely extracted the casket, called the authorities, who rapidly arrived to remove the unexpected legacy from Montreal's past. Finally, in 1944, the city of Montreal purchased the land for $35,000 to complete the conversion of the cemeteries into a park. With the construction of the Jacques Cartier Bridge happening, some of the land was needed for the roads and ramps leading up to the span. A plan was hatched to relocate the military burials to the National Field of Honor in the West Island suburb of Pointe Claire. During a 5-day period, the remains were exhumed and the headstones were transferred to the Field of Honor. This ceremony with full military honors was overseen by the Last Post Fund. The organization is dedicated to ensure that no veteran is denied a dignified funeral and burial, as well as a military gravestone, due to insufficient funds at the time of death. Of the 1,797 burials, only 54 headstones could be salvaged. These were placed around the newly created Durbin Circle, which features the general's obelisk in the center. The transfers were completed to Pointe Claire's Le Champ d'Honneur Cemetery on July 21, 1944. The remaining bodies in St. Mary's burial ground were left in place, including that of Charles Hindelang. Following the construction of the entrance ramps to the Jacques Cartier Bridge, motorized road traffic began rolling over the dead. Today, the Veterans Park has a lot more rolling over the old cemeteries, other than cars and trucks coming on and off the Jacques Cartier Bridge. In addition to rollerblades using the rink, in 2021, the City of Montreal announced an event called Pump Track au Veterans Park. The Pump Track event featured a course made up of a series of bumps and turns to be tested by bikes, skates, and scooters. The City of Montreal laid out a 49-meter loop and invited everything from BMX bicycles, skateboards, scooters, and even go-karts to roll over the old burial ground. What the City of Montreal does not realize is that the dead do not like to be disrespected. Generally, they just want to rest in peace. The paranormal activity and ghost sightings in the Veterans Park is likely related to all of the desecration and ongoing disrespect for those still buried there. The most prominent theory about the ghost haunting the park is that he is none other than French Revolution hero and patriot Charles Hindelang. Instead of being transferred to the National Field of Honor like General Durbin, his corpse was left abandoned and unmarked. Ironically, colonial British soldiers are still honored today despite their history and brutality, genocide, land theft, and the execution of adversaries. Meanwhile, many of those who fought for freedom and liberation, like Charles Hindelang, remain in unmarked graves. The fact that leaders of the City of Montreal, past and present, have invited all sorts of traffic to roll over the dead can only be described as deranged. The poor corpses lying in the old cemeteries on Papineau Street have to constantly deal with cars, trucks, buses, BMX bicycles, rollerblades, skateboards, electric scooters, and go-karts constantly rumbling just 6 feet above their final resting place. These most unfortunate circumstances are likely the reasons why the Veterans Park is so very haunted. Enter at your own risk. Are you a Montreal resident or perhaps a tourist who has had a strange experience at the Veterans Park? If so, we would love to know. As always, we want to hear your theories about what could be going on. Thank you so much for stopping by. If this is your first video, we do hope you'll stick around for the next one. We post new videos in both French and English every second Saturday. If you'd like to learn more about the organization founded by the talented Donovan King, it's all listed in the description down below, along with links to purchase tickets to in-person haunted storytelling tours. Remember to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. We'll have a new video out for you in a couple weeks, but until then, stay spooky.